Da 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 da. An interview. I
All
did
right,
it.
you did it. So this is what's sad is that I'm interviewing Aaron Overton with Heatherstone, and he had to do his own intro. See, that was
I love doing the intro. It was great.
But why did I make you do that, Aaron?
Oh, probably because you didn't have this envelope with the fancy thing on it. But if I wanted to give you the non-avoiding lawyer answer, see other video, see other interview when it's the other way around. Probably because I am a web developer and that includes a certain amount of marketing expertise. And so as part of marketing, we like things like a fancy intro, even if the fancy intro is written on the back of an envelope.
But it's creative.
Trying to be.
See that?
Yeah.
All right. So you're a web designer. You're with Heatherstone. How long have you been doing this?
So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. I built my first website in 1994. And that may sound like crazy because who knew that there were websites in 1994? It was actually the thing that happened was I was sitting there and reading the news, like I think on a piece of paper, like because we used to have news and then it would be on this like paper and then there would be like the ink that would get all of your fingers and stuff. And there was a news article on this paper that said, the internet is now open for commercial use. Because before that, of course, it was all like just military and science stuff and everything. And I remember thinking, that sounds like that's going to be a big deal. I should learn how to do that. That sounds cool. And so I did.
You were correct, I would say.
Yeah, not as correct as Jeff Bezos, but I was still correct.
Close. All right. So you've been doing this for a while.
Yes.
You obviously are good at it if it has allowed you to keep doing it for so long.
I am quite good at it, yes.
Okay. So let's get into that a little bit. How I'm looking for a website. How do I know that I'm going to work well with you?
Yeah, that's almost like a trick question. Yes, there are definitely there are people who are seeking different kind of results with a website. Okay, and some people are looking for the fact that like, hey, my business requires that I have a website. I want to check the box that says have website. They probably are not going to want to hire me because I try to set like kind of a higher maybe standard for that. You can get a perfectly acceptable website either if you have more time than you have money, then you can do one through one of the low cost or even free services and get an adequate website with some basic information and check that box. Okay, I have it, and now you don't have to think about it again. Okay, and if you're not planning on using your website as a marketing engine to really generate business, that might be the right way to go. Then there's another tier where you spend a little bit more time and you get what I kind of refer to as the commodity website. And this is a thing that's going to cost you somewhere between $1,000 and maybe $2,500. And somebody's going to put together a WordPress website. They're going to use a theme and they're going to do this thing out. But it's not really necessarily like designed specifically for you. Maybe it's got a lot of boilerplate content. Maybe it's using a lot of stock photography. You may or may not be able to get involved in in making sure that it matches your style. And there are lots of really great providers who specialize in doing websites at that level. The place where I start getting involved, there's two main things. One is a marketing website that's going to be more of a marketing engine that's going to involve more customization that is really dedicated towards what you do and is a little more specialized. That might mean that we sit down and we have like a whole discussion around exactly what your marketing message is and what is the style that you want to have. Sometimes people's mottos for their company actually kind of just fall out of that conversation. Like we'll be having a conversation with it. We'll kind of repeat back, oh, so do you mean blah, blah, blah. And the way that repeating it back to them comes through. Now that's the motto of their company. That's the slogan. And it's right on the front of their stuff. And they say it like all the time in their advertising materials. And those kinds of things just kind of fall out like of the process because we're really trying to dig into who this person is and who this company is so we can make it right. The second part of that marketing website that goes deeper is that we'll also think about calls to action. What do we want people to do when they come to the website? And then making sure that that call to action has follow-up. So it might mean that they fill out a contact form and this stuff goes over into Keep, which used to be called Infusionsoft. And now there's like an automated email campaign that's going to happen. That's going to bring those people who have visited the website, turn them into prospects, turn them into customers sometimes, even before you even had to get like directly involved. But it goes a little deeper, and it's people are thinking about, they're thinking about the website almost like they would like a retail storefront. Because, you know, nobody opens up a retail storefront with just like a cookie cutter look, right? I mean, even if they're a franchise, they've got like corporate has defined like something that really is thought out and works. And people drop like tens of thousands of dollars on that retail storefront. The really good website that's a marketing engine has more thought that goes into it, has more design, has more automation that kind of falls into that thing. That's really the second side of the marketing websites that we do.
So do you do all the work yourself, or do you outsource some of it?
I do quite a bit of the work myself because I am pretty technical. Like I came to this field from the programmer side, right? I went to college and got a degree in computer science. I also got a minor in speech communication, which was very unusual. I mean, I was one of the few people in my graduating class who even spoke English at that point. It was really interesting. It was full of, you know, my graduating class of computer science people, which was like 14 people in a college, was mostly like Russian and Chinese people who were here on, you know, learning student visas. And so their English wasn't all that great. And then here I've got this like speech communication minor. So that was a thing. But I came at it from a programming perspective, and now I totally forgot the question.
No, I was asking if you outsource work.
Oh, the outsourcing part. So anyway, that's meant that along the way, I've been very technical, and I continue to be very technical. I continue to be heavily involved in the development. Now, I do also now work with my oldest daughter, who she went to college also, and she got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in illustration. But as you may be aware, an art degree doesn't always necessarily go directly towards things like an income. And so she, with this like, oh look, and dad has this company, and so she like straight out of college she ended up working for Heatherstone, and she has since then also transferred to and got some experience with some other companies, and is now kind of like working on a transition back into Heatherstone. So she does at least part-time right now some of the design work, and she'll do some of the interview and design layout stuff, and then I'll bang out a bunch of technical stuff. And then from time to time I do have like additional help on more of like an ad hoc or consulting basis, or when we take on a job that's like a really big programming job, I do have a full-time developer that also supports that side of the business.
That's good to know, so people know who they're working with and what they can expect. Do you have people sign contracts?
I do, and little shout out to my lawyer who helped me recently revise that and make it better. Yes, they sign a contract, and
that sets forth all of everything that you're going to do, so nobody is expecting something.
You know, we have occasionally not done that, and when we've not done that, it's rarely a problem. But yeah, it's something that you really should do, and really it's best for both parties. I mean, in theory, we can even set up a surety bond, which if the project is under $10,000 is not really very expensive. And, you know, that would just, that just provides comfort for the client who's paying for a service, and then like provides kind of like a secondary source to make sure that they get what they want. Unfortunately, like on some of these smaller contracts, it's also a little challenging because clients don't always know exactly what they want. And so it's a little difficult to define everything up front. But we do have, yes, there's a baseline level of deliverable that we agree to in a contract, and then of course we try to deliver, and then a little extra along the way.
So how do I know if my website is working? How would one person know whether their website is working or not?
Okay. Well, the very first way is to say, do you have any mechanism whereby you can track results? And, like, can you say, I have received this many contacts this month, and of those contacts, this many produced business, and here's how many dollars kind of fell out the other end? And if the answer is, I don't know, then probably your website is either working and you just don't know it, or it's not working and you just don't know it. And frankly, that is the situation that most people are in. They don't really know. They have no idea. And that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to know what is a website worth, right? If you're going to get, if you knew that I could spend $5,000 on my website and on ongoing marketing of that website, and $20,000 was going to spit out the other side,
Right. You would do it.
you're going to just like pick up a pile of $5,000 chunks and shovel them in the front as fast as you can, right? But most people have no idea. So then that means that the website ends up feeling like they classify it more in kind of the category of this is an expense versus this is a marketing investment. And it's really kind of remarkable because you build a website one time, and if you spend $5,000 or $10,000 on that website, and then you don't even really have to pay anything for it again, and now this thing works for you for 2-3 years before you really need any kind of significant update, that's probably, hopefully that's shoveling out quite a lot of new business for you. And if it is, then that is a trivial cost. And yet same people will send out, a $5,000 postcard mailing that goes out one time. And, 98% of those people, it never even gets into their house because they've dumped the postcard in the mail in the trash can that's right next to the mailbox. It's just kind of like, oh, here, let me throw this away for you. Thank you for sending me that, right? And maybe if you read it, because, as we know, like nobody promises more than a 1% return on postcards, but it's also a one-time hit. And so, websites are pretty affordable. Even if you're spending $10,000 on it, it's a really affordable mechanism for marketing. And I think people don't really kind of think that through.
Mm-hmm. So what if so let's say I agree with you, but I can't afford you. Can I hire you for piecemeal projects?
Yeah, you can. Part of it depends on what you have already, right? And I mean, look, the thing is if somebody has nothing, or they have something that's kind of actually detracts from their business rather than is better. First of all, you could, if you started with one of these, like I said, as a commodity website that you could buy from me or you could buy from somebody else. I mean, that's not really where we specialize, but for somebody whose like long-term goal is to turn into a marketing engine, that's a different story. We'll help them get started, right? You can launch with a single page website that is perfectly okay, is built on WordPress, and is ready for this progress. And if you need to do it now, then you start with that, and then 3-6 months later, we'll add a thing. The other thing is you can
growing website with a payment plan.
What's that?
You can just start building on this one page, as you can pay. So eventually you can have a fully.
Another way to do it is take a loan. Like people do improvements on a business. They put out for capital expenditure on a loan all the time.
Yeah.
And there's no
money back in X amount of time, then why not?
Exactly. Correct. But again, you have to be thinking about it from the perspective of it's a marketing investment rather than an expense. If it's an expense, of course you don't want to spend money on it. Nobody wants to spend money on the expense thing.
Right. All right. So who inspired you to start doing this, or what's inspiring you now?
What's inspiring me now? Well, so it's interesting because there was a point when I actually left this whole kind of small business thing for about 3 years. And I worked on a team at Microsoft building out parts of Microsoft.com. And you would think like, well, like, why wouldn't you do that? Like stable paycheck and big, huge company and all this stuff and everything. There were parts of it that I really didn't like. And the two major parts that I didn't like is that, first of all, I would be working on a feature and it might be 6 months before it delivered to the web, right? Like nobody would see it for 6 months. And I like the fact that I can build something and sometimes as few as weeks later, it's out there being used. Okay. And then updates are prompt. And so you get to see the results of things much, much quicker. Second, Microsoft doesn't need my help that much, right? I'm one person and they have thousands or tens, they really have tens of thousands of people that work for them. So the projects that they do, they're huge in scope, and you're like one little piece of producing this thing for this big company. And while that's fine, and there's certainly this place for it, one of the things that's really attractive to me is about helping small business owners really progress, right? I like the fact that people go out and they say, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to build a business. I am going to provide these cool services. I'm going to use my skills and make other people's lives better. And helping them along the way is a thing that I want to do. I don't typically use the word help because people are hiring me to take action, not to just help them do a thing. But this is a part, this is a component that goes into them doing business building. And I want to see lots of people be successful.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have. Do you have anything else that maybe I should have touched on?
You could go like, dude, you should totally hire this guy. Like, I don't know. This is, yeah, it's, of course I want that, right? Like that would be the best. Yeah, I just think, I think the web's a difficult thing to understand, right? Because nobody knows what it costs. Nobody knows people really struggle with the value. And I guess a thing that I would point out is that if anybody ever calls me and wants advice on how to do this, that is a free thing, right? I'll just tell it I certainly tell it to them straight. And not everybody likes that, but if you want, like, just here's how it is, and here's what I think, and you can run with it as you see fit. Yeah, just call me. It's fine. I'm happy to talk to people and give advice.
Everyone gets caught up about the money, right? But it's paying for a service, right? It's not like I'm paying thousands of dollars and I get this car. It's a service that keeps on and always been welcoming questions and answers and delivering. So
people like it, like I said, there's a lot to it that's mysterious, and I'm happy to help take a bunch of the mystery out of it. And if at the end of that somebody wants to hire me to do it, that's totally great. Of course, I love that. If they want to hire somebody else and it helps them along the way. Actually, let me just throw in one quick story about that. I did have, this woman came to me, she is a massage therapist, and she was saying, I'm really struggling because I don't have a website. People ask me why I don't have a website, but here's this thing is that I don't want to have hundreds of customers. I want to have, 15 regular customers that I work with. And if one of them stops, I want to then go find one more customer. And because I go to their homes and massage is a very physical thing, I want to have that customer comes to me through word of mouth and referral. And so, I feel this pressure to so what do I do? And I said to her, that is a perfectly good answer. And you turn it into a strength. I don't have a website because the service that I provide is not for the world. Right. And it was cool because she was able to feel really relieved. She had never really thought that saying I don't have one is a perfectly acceptable answer. And that's kind of part of what marketing is part of what telling your story is. And sometimes the right story is that. And that didn't help me pay my bills, but it's okay because she had the right answer and the right story. And that's what we really, really want.
She will send you to somebody else because she trusts you.
Yes, that is the hope and desire.
How are people going to contact you?
Best way is just call me, email me, text me, any of those things. Aaron, it's Aaron Overton at heatherstone.com, 425-301-2423. That's right. It's from the Seattle area. That's because I used to work for Microsoft. That's a thing that you get to throw in there if you keep that number for a long time. Heatherstone.com is, of course, the website. Come to our BNI chapter that meets on Thursday mornings at 7:30. It's now online, so it doesn't even matter if you're in Las Vegas or not. My customers are all over the world at this point. Anybody can come.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Aaron.
Well, thanks, Whitney, for asking all the right questions. I love it. I didn't
Enjoy
even
your,
have like there weren't even any awkward ones. It was so great.
you're lucky.
All right. Bye, all.